Hello, everyone. Before Aram, well, here he comes. He's going to sit down in his seat, and here we go. CIF Southern Section Champions Week. We've got two teams left on the table, Friday and Saturday night. I'll let Aram set it all up, but we got Pomona playing on Friday night against Paraclete at Antelope Valley College, and on Saturday night, Central Division Championship, Los Altos versus Colony. Aram, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you really kind of set the stage there, Fred. Kind of amazing, man. It's early December. We started this late August. Everything has flown by, and here we are. One of the Valley's most storied programs, playing again for a CIF championship. That would be Los Altos.
Yeah.
8-5, taking on Colony, which is 11-2. Colony, the number 1 seed in the Central Division. Pretty amazing that this, I don't know. I guess back in August, if you told me that Los Altos would be in the finals, I wouldn't be surprised. We started them as the number 4 ranked team in the area. They had high expectations, but this was a team that had its ups and downs throughout the year.
That's why in the CI program they call them the Cinderella story. I mean, for the very reason, they're the ups and downs.
I guess you are that when you come into a final at 8-5. And they were the number 3 team out of the league. They needed just to keep winning at the end of league just to make the playoffs, and they did do that. And now, they're the last team standing. Go figure. Not Glendora, not Charter Oak, not Monrovia. At least as far as the locals, the last team standing in this division. And they're going to play a Colony team, Fred, that I saw last week play against Charter Oak. That's pretty outstanding. I mean, they have size, they have speed, they have everything you want. They looked pretty well coached to me last week against Charter Oak. This is a great game, and I think we should probably start with this one, and then we'll go to the Mid Valley final between Pomona and Paraclete in just a second. Here's the thing: the game got moved from Los Altos High School. Everybody probably read about this on the blogs. It got moved, Fred, because of concerns over field conditions and stadium capacity as far as crowds. First one I could see, second one I can't. But the fact is, it's going to be at Cerritos College. It's going to be played now on turf. If weather is a factor on this night, it's going to be nullified by the fact that those fields, they don't hold water, they drain well, they maybe get slick. This doesn't help Los Altos. They want to play in mud. Right. They want to play in cement if they could.
Right.
Wet cement, that is. This doesn't help them.
Yeah. Well,
it's a factor.
And look, earlier in the week, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this because I've tweeted out enough about this field being moved over to Cerritos College, on Saturday night. Hey, look, there had been precedent set, like we had said, at Cal Hyde played on that field that was every bit as similar as Los Altos. Los Altos holds 7,000 fans. For CI to put in the release that the stadium capacity was a concern when Los Altos even told me that they were willing to bring in more bleachers was just an absolute excuse. There's been games at Rio Hondo Prep that has a visiting sideline that's actually on a hill. I just didn't buy the reasoning, but hey, they're moving the game. It's over with now. We've got to move on, and I think you're right, Aram. One thing about Los Altos, last thing I should say too is they did try to get this game in the Valley. They did want to play the game at
down the 605 all the way in Cerritos.
No, they wanted to play at Mount Sac. They wanted to play at Citrus. They looked at Cal State Fullerton. They couldn't get it. And they also looked at some of the nearby high schools, but felt that if we were going to play at a high school, it should be at our stadium. So they moved the game all the way out to Cerritos College. Probably a bad move. If I'm them, I wouldn't have taken the game out of the San Gabriel Valley. That was Los Altos' decision at the end of the day. And you're right. The surface could play a role for a speedy team like Colony that likes to throw the ball. And I was talking to Michelle Gardner, who covers the Bulletin for us, our sister paper, and she was telling me Josh Thompson, who played in a couple series against Charter Oak last week, is probably going to go. The guy's got 1,989 yards, 14 touchdowns. He broke his collarbone or fractured his collarbone in Week 10 against Don Lugo. That's on October 30th. It's amazing the guy is going to be ready to go. If I'm Los Altos, I'm gonna get after that guy pretty quick, Aram, and put him under pressure. See if I can put him on his back and see if he gets back up, because that guy is a lightning rod for them. If he's anything like what he's been all year, I haven't seen him, what we've heard he's been like all year, that could spell trouble for Los Altos. They also got Ryan Kennard, who's rushed for 1,115 yards, 26 touchdowns. They could do a little of both. They can air it out, they can throw the ball, but not an unbeatable team. You look at the Charter Oak loss to Colony. I think you pointed it out in your story. 8 turnovers in that game. I don't think you're going to beat anybody with 8 turnovers, and that's what Charter Oak suffered against them.
And it was still a game.
Glendora,
up until late.
Glendora, they beat Los Altos earlier in the year in a close game. And that's when they had Matt Fink, their quarterback, and all of their guys healthy. Glendora went in and played Colony, gave them a very good game. I think that was 27-27 late
and Glendora
before
was
Colony
driving.
pulled it away. Yeah,
it was 6-7 minutes.
Right. So you look at a couple of those games, and I know this looks like Cinderella taking on the number 1 seed, but I really got to believe that Los Altos, and for the reasons you said at the beginning of the year, they're going to feel like, they're not the big underdog everyone thinks they are. I think they're going to stare across at Colony and feel like, we can beat this team, and there's no reason for them not to think that they can.
Well, you can do that, Freddie, when you're as big as Los Altos is along both lines, and when you're as aggressive as they are along both lines. They are certainly not going to be pushed around in this game. You wouldn't expect that at all. Now, speed on the outside, that may be a concern, but this is the beauty of this game. These are two teams that, in my opinion, going off of what I saw last week from Colony, and this is all I can base on. I haven't seen them the rest of the year. These are two teams that kind of do have the opposite game plan or opposite type of style. Los Altos wants to keep the game in a box, hit you with a big play here or there, but basically they want to hand the ball to Tyler Nevins and let him grind behind that huge offensive line. And Nevins, the last 2 weeks, 300 yards each week.
That's 309 and 308. And
right.
He's had over 150 yards or more in each of his last 6 games.
He's just a sophomore, folks, but you're going to hear a lot more about him. I mean, this is a big time player who's really caught fire toward the end of the season. He's come up big on all these games. That's what Los Altos wants to do. Colony, they spread the ball out. They can run it. Obviously, Kennard has good numbers, but they can throw it too. They got a lot of speed on the outside. Last week against Charter Oak, I really give Colony credit. They came out there and they seized the moment. They tried a fake punt that worked. They did a fake 2-point conversion that worked. They broke out all the stops on the drive where they took the lead for good in the game. They had 2 trick plays on that one drive. That's what you do, Fred, in these spots. We've talked about this before. It's not who the better team is overall or for the season. It's who the better team is for 48 minutes on Friday night. You seize the moment. You do certain things. You go after it. That's what Colony did. They were not going to leave that field last week with any regrets, and they didn't. And you have to give them credit. You also have to give them credit as they were the number 1 ranked team, and they've made it this far, and they did it with their starting quarterback going down. Right. You got to really give them credit. It happened to Glendora, and it cost them. It happened to St. Francis in another division, and it cost them. It didn't cost Colony. This team had next man up, and they survived it. This is a very, very, very good team that deserves to be here. They are the favorites in this game. I really do believe that. But Los Altos has cards to play. Los Altos is a very solid team. They do a lot of things right. They can physically throw you around. If they get their running game going, they have a big shot in this game. I don't know. You want to get into picking it now?
What I love about championships, Aram, is it's more about what's just on paper. I mean, these are the games where these guys they're gonna sit in their locker rooms. They're gonna listen to the pregame speeches. They've got all week to think about this moment.
They're gonna watch this show.
This is your moment. This is your moment. This is going to be the game that, especially if you're seniors, even juniors and sophomores, you may never get back to this. This is going to be the one game you talk about the rest of your lives. I mean, we've got a guy in this office who has a CIF ring. I mean, they talk about those championship games. This is going to be your moment, and I think in those big games, and especially when you got two teams that are sort of closely matched. This isn't a Goliath.
No.
This isn't a heavy favorite versus a big underdog. Yes, Colony's the number 1 seed. Yes, I agree with you that they should be favored in this game. But if you were basing this on just the last 5 games of the season. Los Altos has got a 5-game winning streak. If you just go right now in how they're playing in the last month, Los Altos versus Colony, I like how Los Altos stacks up against them. I think this last week, where this the last couple days where they've had they've taken their home field away from them. They've got to go outside to San Gabriel. They got to go play somewhere else. I think they're going to use that to their advantage. It ain't going to be like West Covina going having to go to Cal High and play Lucerna 3 years ago and dropping 84 points on them and saying, look, well, I don't care what field you wanted to play on. We were going to blow you out. This is Los Altos having to move now. This is Los Altos having to move because Colony wanted to move. And I just think all of that stuff is going to be firing in their belly. And to me, this is a team. I look at Lorenzo Silva, their quarterback, who doesn't look like a prototypical quarterback to me. The guy's just kind of solidly built. He's thrown for 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. But he's a tough kid, and he's capable sometimes of running the ball or doing things. I just think this team is going to be so fired up, Aram. I think the defense is going to play one of their best, if not their best game of the season. I just feel that momentum in that game coming for Los Altos. And as good as Colony is, and even if they're going to have their quarterback back on Saturday,
you can bank on that.
But he's not going to be 100% healthy. You
break
a fracture your collarbone, but you're going to feel some of that. What's great is I didn't put up predictions on our blogs earlier in the week because I wanted to save it for this show right now. And doggone it, I'm taking Los Altos. I'm going for Los Altos winning their, what is this going to be, Aram? Number 12? Yeah. 12th CIF championship. They're going to be the San Gabriel Valley leader. And that's unbelievable. Dale Ziola is going to try to join Coach Gano and Coach Despain on that legendary list of coaches at Los Altos. And I just got, sometimes I just get these feelings in my belly. And I've got it right now that after all of this, after everything they've been through, early in the year, last couple of years, I've been saying, Los Altos, they can't win this step-up game. I've never seen them win a step-up game. Well, right now they've stepped up in the playoffs. This is the biggest step-up game of all, and I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, you brought up Dale Ziola, and I think he's actually pretty key to this game because here's a guy that can get crafty himself. He's not going to let the moment pass him by. And I start to wonder if Colony maybe fired their best shot last week in beating Charter Oak, and maybe even to a degree the week before in beating Glendora. They fired 2 pretty good shots to do that. They broke out all the stops to beat Charter Oak. Yes, they were fortunate Charter Oak turned it over 8 times. They had some big plays, pick returns for touchdowns, some great stuff. Colony made some mistakes too that helped Charter Oak out. Let's not get away from that. But the fact is that can they fire one more huge shot, and can they do it as the favorite? Because last week I think they sensed like, hey, Charter Oak's this name program, we got to knock them off. And Los Altos is a team that, can maybe lull you to sleep a little bit. The key, though, is Los Altos is going to have to do a couple things out of its comfort zone in this game. They're going to have to control the pace of the game. If they fall behind, they might be in a little bit of trouble because this isn't really a team geared for coming back. But you're right, Fred. You look at what they've done in the playoffs, and that win over Monrovia, just from start to finish dominating them, even though the final score looked a little closer than the game was, they had a big lead. I think 31-7 at one point. Of course, that was on their home field. The win over Bonita, that was a Bonita team that had beaten the number 4 seed easily, had beaten West Covina easily, and they beat Bonita easily, Los Altos does. The way they're playing right now,
that's why you asked me. You look at the record, 8-5. At this point in the season, I dismissed those 5 losses, although some of them were to pretty good teams.
Yeah,
because I look at what are you doing What are you doing in the month of November?
Right.
What are you doing in the month of November, going into the championships in December? And if you look at it like that, they're every bit as talented, every bit as good as Colony right now.
Again, this game just comes down to styles. I'm going to take Los Altos as well because, I just think that with their line play, they can get their flow of the game that they want in this game. They can lean on this team. They can kill clock. They can make this, a slugfest in the trenches. Getting David Jimenez back into the fold.
Yeah.
He's one of their stud linemen, both offensively and defensively. He was out for part of the season. He's back, slowly getting back into the fold. And the way Tyler Nevins has emerged, you got to stop him.
I didn't see a guy, earlier in the year when I saw Los Altos, they weren't able to move the ball like they are right now.
Right.
I don't remember Nevins.
It's because of Nevins.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's a next level talent, Fred. I mean, you got to really get ready for today. He's got size, speed, everything. This is a big time player. He's only a sophomore. He's putting it all together at the right time.
Because that was my biggest fear with him earlier. When I watched him play against Glendora, when Silva wasn't able to move the ball, they couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't score. They couldn't move the ball or move the chains against Glendora to really win that game. If Silva's able to do to Colony what he's done the last 2 weeks with Los Altos' defense, you bet they have a great chance to win this game.
You mean Nevins?
Yeah.
Okay,
Nevins.
right.
If he can do that,
they're going to gear up to stop him. I mean, obviously they're going to try. But again, you can line up all those guys in the box against Los Altos, and you're playing with fire because Zaiola's the kind of guy that will use Silva to throw over the top on you. He will do that. And if you think even with 8 guys you're going to stack up to that line, sometimes it doesn't work out. Los Altos reminds me of Stanford a lot. Not Stanford this year per se, but the last few years, this double tight end, this lineup, and just, keep it real simple, straightforward football with a big play here and there and a solid defense, and that'll be good enough. Another guy to watch for Los Altos, Tavita Sina. He makes contributions on offense and on defense. Watch this guy fly around the field. He's an absolute terror. They got guys, Freddie.
Yeah.
They're ready for this spot. This is huge for the program. You're going to have Brigham Harwell there. You're probably going to have Sean Cody there. Again, you're going to have all these ghosts from the past there, Freddie. I would expect a huge Los Altos crowd.
And get down there, San Gabriel Valley. But we don't care. At the end of the day now, it's at Cerritos College. It is what it is. Let's get down there.
The Los Altos crowd.
Not just the Los Altos crowd. The San Gabriel Valley doesn't have any teams playing on Saturday night. Get yourself down there. Make the trek down to 605, and let's make it one of those memorable championships. Because there's nothing like it when you get in the final and you've got atmosphere.
Right.
And I think they're going to have atmosphere. I know the Conch Crazies, that crazy little Conch Crazy crowd, they're going to be down there. We'll see how many Colony people make that trip.
Yeah, certainly Los Altos will. Hopefully Colony brings the house as well. Both teams really deserve it. They've had great seasons. Yeah. Freddie and I both have Glendora,
I got to tweet. Some Glendora fan tweeted me that when they went to the game at Colony, that Glendora had more fans there than on the Colony side.
Yeah,
do you believe that? Are you buying
Colony
that? Colony
filled up a small Charter Oak visitor section last week. I know they were saying, hey, it was overflow and they didn't have enough room. Maybe for 20 people. I mean,
that's what boggles my mind about CIF issuing that statement saying that stadium capacity was a concern. I mean, it was just something to throw down there.
That I didn't understand myself.
No. 7,000 seats? They sold 7,000 seats at graduation.
Yeah, that didn't. That part, the field conditions, I can understand because we've talked about this a lot.
You can issue any statement you want.
We've talked about this a lot, and a lot of people that field is in terrible shape, and that's in August. Yeah. So, with a week of rain, maybe it's just too much, and that does hurt Los Altos a little bit.
Yeah, but grass field, at the end of the day, they are what they are.
But Amat's grass field and Los Altos grass field is two, really opposite ends of the spectrum. But
it comes down to the point. Last thing on this, is it unplayable? I mean, you've played in it all year long. You've played playoff games. I remember. I even brought this up to Coach Jerry Llewellyn when Glendora played there early. I go, look at this thing, because it was at that time it hadn't really been mowed.
Right.
And Jerry just kind of looked at me and said, "What are you talking about, man? I love this. This is old town, smash mouth football." He goes, "You got to love this. I love these stadiums and this turf." I mean, they do. Think about it. Before turf, these things were never an issue. You played where you played. Everything was grass. I mean, so I don't get the whole safety concerns. If there are really safety concerns, then they wouldn't have been allowed to play there the whole year. Is it championship worthy? Well,
no.
That's why I thought that. Well, that's why I
Not
thought that.
after a week of rain.
And I don't know how bad that. I think it's going to be clear the next 3 days. But I looked back at some of the fields that they've played with on grass. I didn't think it was that much of a difference. You look at Cal Hyde, not that big of a difference. Rio Hondo Prep. I remember the Covina District field was pretty beaten up one year. Rio Hondo Prep played on it. It poured that night, and it was just mud. It just happens. But that's football. Football's meant to be played in those conditions. So
my final thing on this game is just specifically for Los Altos. Win or lose on Saturday night, you guys, your coaching staff, Zaiola, Burke, all those guys, and the players have accomplished a huge, huge feat, being the class that has put the program back on the map. This was a program, Freddie, when these seniors got there was 0-10 the year before. we know about how good they were under Gano up until about 06, 07, and that last title in 03. But this was a program that after that completely flatlined for 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah. Ziola has brought it back, and they're in a championship game again. That's outstanding. That's really almost impossible to do these days, because once programs hit the skids, like Temple City, it's or Arcadia even to some degree, it's hard to turn things around. He's done exactly that. This guy has done an amazing job. The players have done an amazing job sticking with it. Tyler Nevins, who could have gone anywhere, stayed with it and went to Los Altos because he said, this is a good football program, and I wanted to be a part of it. And here they are. And Freddie, I got to tell you something. I put this in a notebook this week. You better watch out for this program the next few years, because Tyler Nevins' freshman team, he's a sophomore now, they were 10-0. Let me tell you something. They allowed 18 points all year on defense. 18 points all year. 10-0, and Nevins scored on the first play in 7 of the 10 games.
Wow.
Scored on the first play. That'll be in a feature on him coming up later this week. Anyways, let's move on to the
in the future years. They've been approved. They're going to get their stadium and their field renovated.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure if that's going to happen by next season, but thank goodness for that. So we never have this issue again. So that the next time Los Altos is in this situation, they can play a game at home, their championship, just like Monrovia, just like San Dimas, just like other area teams have done in the past. So.
Right. Okay. Mid-Valley Division championship game. This is Pomona going to number 1 seeded Paraclete at Antelope Valley College on Friday night. As we all know, years past, we had a Rosemead go to Paraclete. We had Monrovia go there last year. It can be really Frio this time of year, and it can really, really.
And I'm sure it's going to be cold on Saturday night and windy.
Wind is also a thing. Yeah. Paraclete loves these settings, and they love to get speedy teams in there that don't like these settings. And this is what's happening here. You got to give Pomona credit, though, Freddie. They have gone through their own adversities this year, and here they are playing in the finals. I mean, and boy, are they good.
And think about it. Clay Fowler is going to write a feature this week on Pomona talking about some of those adversities that you talked about. I mean, this is a team that was forced to forfeit one game because the school district didn't want to pay for them to get on a bus and go on a road trip. This is a team that lost its coach, who's still under suspension for some things for an inappropriate remark or contact, whatever that happened at the school. He's still under suspension. First playoff game, there was a bomb threat at the school. Send everybody out. They had to play under those conditions. But the players have all battled through it. I mean, I talked to some of them at the luncheon this week, and it really is a what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of team. I mean, that applies to this team. You look at Darian Lockett. Is there anyone? I mean, you can argue that even in the entire section, this guy's numbers stacks up or would stack up against anybody. 2,845 yards, 42 touchdown passes. He's also rushed for 777 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, the guy has just been unstoppable no matter who he's gone against this year. And he's going to go against Paraclete that has a pretty good defense. This is probably the best team that Pomona has played since they lost to Colony earlier in the year.
Okay.
Pomona has 4 losses. Only 2 losses on the field. They actually beat them. One was Colony in a very, very close game earlier in the year. And that game was before Aram. I still don't know the guys that came up after the sit-out period, but they had some of those guys.
Brian Lamb would be one of them. He was a stud linebacker last year at Diamond Bar. And, he followed Snoop's kid out to Bishop Gorman, and now he's, back, and he's at Pomona, and he's doing a great job. I mean, you could have almost had Noodles Hall on this team as well, because Noodles lives in Pomona. But that's another story.
And we talked about great stories, for Los Altos. And I mean, if you're these kids at Pomona, think about what you've done. They haven't won a CIF championship at Pomona since 1951.
Right.
Before that, you lost in the finals in 1928. You had a championship in 1918. I mean, this is unbelievable what you have done for that school in a district that really didn't give anything back until now. This week I talked to their principal at the luncheon. They are going to charter a bus for them to go to Paraclete. They are also going to charter some buses for some students who want to go down there and watch the game on Friday night.
Students and parents, I hope?
Yes. I don't know if it's parents included, but they're going to charter it for fans. And that's great. I mean, that's something that they should do.
Right.
That's something that these kids deserve.
Yes.
They deserve to have people in those seats on their, watching them. And it's a long drive, and if they can't get down there themselves, great for Pomona if they're actually chartering buses. I don't know how many or how it's working.
That's a lot of fun to go on anyways, Fred. Go on one of those buses. They're a lot of fun.
And they're going to need that support.
Yes.
I mean, it's not an easy drive down there on a Friday night.
Yes.
So if you can get in a bus and go early, great for them.
Right.
Let's get into the game now. Yeah. Paraclete. Here's why I like Pomona. I was looking at some of their close wins this year. They beat Burroughs 15-13, a team you're familiar with in the Pacific League. Good team, not great.
Not a playoff team.
They beat Sierra Canyon 13-7, a team that Pomona beat a little easier than that. Last week against Northview had them on the ropes.
Yeah.
Northview was winning all of that game except for the final 2 minutes and lost 15-12.
Yeah.
You look at what Pomona was able to really, once they got going, put away Sierra Canyon. I just think Pomona is a better football team. I know Paraclete has a history. I think it's their fifth straight final. Is it their fifth?
I don't know. I was looking at it in the CIF, the luncheon.
They played they've been in a lot of finals in recent years. It seems like they're there. They were there last year against San Dimas. I covered that game. You know, they're always in the conversation. They've got a great football tradition. But I think this is Pomona's time right now. I picked them at the very beginning of the year. I think since week 7 or 8. I was telling Aram, look at these scores. Look at what they're doing. I think it was after they just completely dismantled La Puente, who, I know it's La Puente, but it wasn't one of the terrible La Puente teams, but they just dismantled them like they were the
70-something points.
Yeah, I was just looking at what they're doing and how they're doing it. And they went into the playoffs, and that didn't stop in some of these rounds. And they went into a Sierra Canyon team that we thought would give them a pretty good game, and they were able to pull away there. I just think that this is Pomona's time, and they're going to go down there. It's been almost 50 years, more than 50 years since you played in a championship game.
Freddie, they scored 48 points in the first quarter of one of their games.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They really are. This is a team that might have been able to even compete in the Central Division for a championship.
But if you're looking for their kryptonite, if you're looking for the perfect elixir for what a Pomona does, it's Paraclete playing at home, outdoors, out at Antelope Valley College where it's cold and it's windy. Paraclete, they're not sexy. They really never have been. They just win games. Norm Dahlia does a great job with that program. They're almost like a surrogate SGV team because they're always in this division with, there's like Paraclete way out here, but they're playing all these SGV teams. Here's the thing. Speedy teams with explosive offenses and big-time talents have gone out to Paraclete before. You saw it happen with Monrovia last year. They went out there. Paraclete took the speed out of them, took the starch out of them, and won the game. They grinded and they won the game. Paraclete, they can play either style. They can run with teams or they can bash with them. Yeah. The Northview game proved that last week. They put the lights out, Freddie, on a red hot Northview team. This team's very dangerous, and this is not. I love everything about Pomona except the setting for this game. It's not a good setting for them.
The only way I would counter that is it's almost the same situation when they had to go into San Dimas again. Last year San Dimas blew them out in that league championship. This year they went back there, and Coach Zernico is a great coach. You give him a week.
You say last year they did?
No.
Oh.
Last year San Dimas beat Pomona in that Valley Vista League.
Oh, right. Okay.
Pomona got the rematch this year, and that game was at San Dimas in the second round. We call it the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And I really thought, with Pomona's coach not being there, Zernico being the legendary figure he is at San Dimas and has won 2 championships and is always great with a week to prepare, Pomona was still able to do anything they wanted with San Dimas and practically score at will. I talked to Zernico a couple of days after that, and he said, look, Fred, that team has more athletes than any team I've ever coached against in high school or college.
Right.
Sometimes you could be the greatest coach in the world, but if the other team just has superior football players, sometimes that just wins out. And I know that the coaching, I don't want to call it that it's in disarray over Pomona.
It's not.
They're not.
Keith Richardson's done a great job.
Yeah.
The coaching staff stuck around. They've done a great job.
Right. I think the players at this point in the season, week 14, they know what they do. They know what they do well. Is Paraclete good enough to just stop that? Does it come down to X's and O's? I don't think it's going to come down to X's and O's as much as athletes, better football players.
Paraclete, though, Freddie, is the kryptonite for teams like this. They played the speedy Sierra Canyon this year. They held them to 7 points. Sierra Canyon has a ton of athletes, too. I know Pomona beat them athlete.
They held Northview 12.
They play good defense. They're not going to be scared by the moment because they're in this moment every year. Yeah. They get the game out at their place where it's windy, it's colder than it is here.
They ain't holding Pomona to 7 points.
No,
they ain't holding Pomona to 13.
The fact is that
Pomona's going to score 30 or more. I guarantee you that.
Monrovia went out there last year, and it looked like, hey, man, Monrovia was Scobie and Potts. They're too fast. They're too many playmakers. Paraclete too young. And look what happened. They find a way to take the starch out of these teams. I'm not picking Paraclete in this game. I'm picking Pomona, but I think this game's going to be very, very close, Freddie. I don't think Pomona's going to run roughshod all over these guys like they have other teams. This is a team that's used to the setting. Pomona's not. Pomona hasn't played for the CIF championship. They've had some nice wins locally. They got to get on a long bus ride.
Yeah.
They got to. Okay. This is a very serious.
I get you.
And if Pomona wins this, and I think they will. I think they're just going to be a little too fast and it's a little too explosive. You got to give them all the credit in the world. This is not a good setting.
My problem with Paraclete is they don't score a lot of points. You look at these
they just win games though.
Okay, they beat, like you said, Northview 15-12, Sierra Canyon 13-7, Burroughs 15-13. Yeah, their defense is great. They were allowed to win those games because their defense held those. I don't think they're going to do that to Pomona. I think Pomona is going to score 30 or more points and they're going to wind up holding Paraclete under 20. I just think it's going to come down to that. I won't be surprised if Pomona gets on top of them. And then what's Paraclete going to do? They don't sound like a team that's going to be able to really come back on you.
No.
I think Pomona, if they get on top of them, they're going to be able to pull away.
Right.
But
are they going to be able to get off the bus in the cold and get on top of them?
Look, nobody. Yes.
That's if they can, they win.
I do. I think they're going to be able to get, sometimes those elements do play a role. Although I'll say this. Since those games have gone to Antelope Valley College, I think that favors Pomona because of field surface. The one game I covered at Paraclete years ago when Rosemead played there, they actually played at their home stadium on that grass.
Yeah.
It was freezing that night. They sold hand warmers at the stadium. I remember typing, my fingers were shaking. Yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable.
15
yeah, by the end of the night, man, I'm interviewing the guys and the smoke's coming out of my mouth. It's going to be cold. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be cold. But I think at the end of the day, Pomona's going to handle this. Lockett is going to go nuts. Best athlete on the field by far. I know they have Melky Stovall over at Paraclete.
Player.
But I thought Northview held him in check fairly well last week. I don't think anybody is going to hold Darian Lockett in check. I think he's going to go nuts on Friday night. And I like Pomona, and I'll give you a score right now. I like Pomona 34-14 over Paraclete.
A 20-point win?
20-point win.
Wow, okay.
And I like Los Altos over Colony 28-24.
Listen, as far as the Pomona-Paraclete game, there's going to be a moment that I don't think Pomona has had really, unless you go back to that Colony game. It's going to be that oh crap moment where you're in a close game with huge high stakes.
That's the fear.
Yeah, that's the fear. And we've seen that's happened to a team like La Mirada. When they got in that moment with Tolegian, things didn't go well. And if they have that moment where there's doubt creeps in, or are we going to do this? It's 50-50. This team's hitting us back. This team slowed us down. Oh my God, we're going to the fourth quarter, and instead of having 40 points right now, we only have 20. If that moment comes on Friday night, what does Pomona do?
Yeah.
You're right. They're fast enough and athletic enough, Fred, to make sure that never happens. But I don't think you take a 2.5-hour bus ride to Antelope Valley College and play in the cold and jump right off the bus and get up 21-0 on Paraclete.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you. In a close game, I think you got to favor Paraclete. But I think Pomona, if they're going to win this game, they're going to win it going away. I don't think they're going to win a close game.
You could be right, but again, I think this is going to be a very, very, very close game. I'm thinking something like, like what you said for Los Altos score, 28-24.
The only tough thing is, Paraclete, I remember they were in that championship game last year, and they lost an absolute heartbreaker to San Dimas in the final minutes. So they're obviously pretty hungry too.
Right.
Could be a great game. I just think Pomona's going to pull away and win this game pretty handily.
Right. Okay, so we both have Pomona. We both have Los Altos. These games are going to require you to get in your car, turn on the heater, and drive a little bit. Make sure you have more than a quarter tank of gas. make sure you have some food options on the way down or wherever you're going. So we urge you, though, to go. It's Saturday night. There's nothing else going on. You don't want to watch the Big Ten Championship. Yeah. You want to go to these games. Go to Cerritos College, support Los Altos and Colony. Go out to Antelope Valley and support Pomona and Paraclete. This is it, man. I mean, I don't know what the bowl options are for any of these teams.
There's no bowl options for any of these teams. Okay. They're not even in the conversations. It's do or die Friday and Saturday night. Then someone's going to be holding up a trophy, dancing and singing. Someone else is going to be crying with a towel over their head like a cheerleader.
Right. And we'll be out there to cover it, everybody. Get on the blogs. We don't need to tell you from now until Friday and Saturday. But more importantly, get out to the games, enjoy it, support the kids. And if truly there are no bowl things coming up, Freddie, that's a wrap for us for this season. There won't be a show on Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll be on location.
Yeah, this will be it. So thank you for a fantastic 2014 season, everybody. We had our highs and lows, ups and downs, good arguments, good debates as usual, and hey, well, we'll be ready to do it again next year. So thank you for watching. Thanks for all the support, and we'll see you on the blogs.
Yeah, we'll see you Saturday night at Angel Stadium, Pac-5, Bishop Amat versus St. No, it's just not happening. 1 yard, 2 inches away from the Pac-5.